Back in 2021, Jimmy Donaldson, the world knew him as MrBeast, was working on one of his biggest projects to date. It was a 48-hour overnight survival challenge inside an abandoned warehouse outside of Greenville, North Carolina. The location? An old textile mill that had been closed since the 80s. Most of the buildings around it were gone, but the warehouse still stood, massive and untouched. This was supposed to be a surprise upload, something completely raw and gritty. No big sets, no prizes, no loud intros. Just MrBeast and a few of his close friends locked inside a forgotten place with cameras rolling. The goal: survive 2 nights inside the creepy warehouse with no phones, no power, and no leaving until time was up. They brought minimal gear: sleeping bags, infrared cameras, flashlights, and some pre-rigged GoPros. Chandler, Carl, and Chris were there, along with a small crew. The first few hours were just exploring the warehouse. Lots of rusted pipes, broken tiles, a few rats. It looked perfect for a horror video. But around 1 a.m., things shifted. Carl swore he saw someone standing in one of the upper windows. A man with no flashlight, no sound, just a silhouette in the shadows. Jimmy thought it might be a squatter or someone messing with them, so they went to check it out. When they reached the upper floor, nobody was there. Just old office rooms, moldy papers, and the smell of burned wood. Then came the noises. All night, they kept hearing metallic dragging sounds coming from different parts of the warehouse. They'd go investigate, but nothing was ever there. Once they left a GoPro recording near the hallway, and when they checked the footage the next morning, they heard what sounded like heavy breathing, right into the mic, but nobody was near it at the time. On the second night, Chris found a door in the back hallway they hadn't noticed before. It was sealed with what looked like melted wax and nails hammered into the edges. It gave off this awful smell, a mix of sulfur and wet copper. Jimmy wanted to open it for the video, but the crew warned against it. Still, curiosity won. They pried the door open. Behind it, joked nervously at first. Probably some edgy kid doing urban exploring, someone said. But then the air inside the warehouse got colder. Cameras started glitching. The battery in the infrared cam, which had just been fully charged, drained to 0 in seconds. That night, Carl woke up screaming. Said he saw something standing over him. A man with a torn mouth and black eyes. Jimmy thought it was just sleep paralysis. But Carl refused to stay the second night. They had to cut the challenge short. When they got back to the editing room, most of the footage from inside the hidden room was corrupted. Green static, weird sounds, and what looked like whispering in reverse. The editor swore the words, "Why did you come?" were hidden in the audio. Jimmy decided never to post the footage. The video never made it to the channel. He even had the raw files wiped. None of them have ever mentioned that warehouse again. But Carl still refuses to go on overnight shoots. And every now and then, when fans zoom into old vlogs from that week, people claim they see something in the background. A man in shadows, watching. But Jimmy never confirms, and he never denies it either. In early 2022, just before MrBeast hit 100 million subscribers, he was filming a video idea he called the Deep Web Challenge. It was never supposed to be released publicly. It was more of an experiment, something raw and risky. The idea was simple. MrBeast and his crew would rent an isolated house in the middle of nowhere, with no internet, except for a satellite connection that allowed access to the dark web. The challenge? Spend 24 hours buying and reacting to some of the creepiest, strangest, most disturbing things people actually sell or stream there. All reactions would be real, all footage uncut. They set up in an old farmhouse 2 hours outside of Asheville, North Carolina. Just MrBeast, Chandler, Carl, and 2 security guys. The crew brought 3 laptops with VPN protection, screen recorders, and a bunch of burner crypto wallets. At first, it was all edgy fun. They found pages selling fake passports, mystery boxes, even illegal candy. But around 2 a.m., Chandler clicked on a strange listing. It didn't have a name, just a single word: observe. The description was blank. The price? $666 in Bitcoin. Jimmy told him not to do it. Too creepy, and we don't know what it is. But Chandler clicked anyway, laughing. Once the payment went through, the laptop screen glitched. Then it went black, and then a live feed popped up. It was surveillance camera footage. A dimly lit room with a single bed, a cracked mirror, and a man sitting motionless in the corner. The feed had a timer in the bottom right. It had started 8 hours before they ever clicked. The man didn't move. No title, no IP address, nothing. Just a silent stream of someone in a dirty room staring at the camera. The team assumed it was pre-recorded until the man stood up and walked toward the camera. It was subtle, but in real time. Carl said, "Yo, is this live?" Then the man on the screen said something, but there was no audio. Just a whisper, like the mic was turned off. Jimmy leaned closer. The man mouthed, "Don't watch this." The lights in the farmhouse flickered, their satellite internet disconnected. The feed vanished. One of the laptops froze completely and never turned back on again, even after trying to reboot it multiple times. But the weirdest part came the next morning. The 2 security guys, hired through a vetted service, were gone, vanished. Their gear was still there: phones, jackets, food, but no sign of where they went. The farmhouse doors were locked from the inside, and all the cameras had been turned off sometime around 4:11 a.m. The team left early. Jimmy called the company that sent the guards, and they denied ever assigning anyone to that location. Back in the studio, Carl refused to edit the footage. He said there was something in the static of the glitched screen, like faces blinking in and out of the black frame. Every time he paused it, they seemed to get closer. Jimmy buried the video. He never uploaded it, never spoke about it again. In interviews, when asked about unreleased content, he always skips over 2022. But some say there's a frame from that night hidden in one of his public thumbnails, buried in the chaos, blurred into a corner. And others claim that if you dig deep enough into archived dark web mirrors, the stream is still live. MrBeast's massive warehouse giveaways, something strange happened, but it never made it to YouTube. A private fan contest. MrBeast invited 100 winners to a massive, newly leased warehouse near Wilmington, North Carolina. The challenge was called Last to Leave the Underground Room Wins $100,000. But what the public never saw is what went wrong. According to a former editor, who later deleted all his socials, this specific video was scrapped because the footage became unusable. But in reality, the story is far darker. The underground room was part of an older section of the warehouse. It had been built in the 1960s by a defense contractor. MrBeast's team was unaware the basement had once been used for military training simulations. Steel walls, no windows, reinforced doors. The kind of place where light barely penetrated and time felt warped. The plan was to put all 100 contestants in the room with limited food, water, and access to basic items. They could leave anytime, but the last one standing would win the grand prize. For the first 24 hours, everything went smoothly. Jimmy and the crew filmed reactions, funny moments, people quitting. But around hour 36, things started getting weird. The temperature dropped, even though no AC was running. One contestant fainted, said she felt like something was watching her, not the cameras. She described a man in the corner wearing a headset and a black coat, just standing there, even though no one was near her. The crew thought she was hallucinating, gave her water, and escorted her out. Then, more contestants began to report looping audio. Some heard MrBeast's voice telling them to stay, you're almost there. But he was nowhere near the basement. He had gone home to rest. Others claimed their watches and phones glitched, as if hours had passed. Carl checked the security feed and found 17 seconds of complete blackness with no explanation. No camera failure, just static and then normal footage again. Then a male contestant went missing. At first, the team thought he had quit, but his face never showed on any of the exit footage. He was simply gone. They searched the basement, the building, the loading docks. Nothing. They eventually found his shirt stuffed behind a panel in the back corner of the underground room. Behind it, a sealed, rusted metal door no one had noticed. It had a faded US military symbol and a warning label in barely readable paint. Do not open without command. Chris tried to film them opening it, but the moment they touched the handle, every camera in the building lost signal. Even phones stopped recording. Jimmy called it off. They cleared the set. Everyone was paid double to stay quiet. The missing contestant? Labeled a runaway? His family eventually got a settlement. That warehouse was never used again. It's still listed as vacant on property databases, even though neighbors report seeing lights flicker inside at night. Fan noticed something strange. In one of MrBeast's 2022 thumbnails, zoomed in at 400%, there's a figure in the back of a warehouse, barely visible, wearing a headset and a black coat.